Okay, so we're back with feedback on questions for discussion board 5. And let's begin with a question from Mitchell. If you were a coach, which method would you primarily use, negative or positive? Well, unfortunately, it seems to be that negative coaching does seem to be make results. As somebody said in the discussion board, often I think it was Layali's said when people kind of use negative psychology against her, she tends to say, "Well, I'll show you." Okay, so I think that's the particular approach of negative coach. I hate it. I can't stand it, and I wouldn't want to be on any team with whose a coach was used negative coaching. There's an extreme example of negative coaching from the movie Whiplash. It's based in a school of music, and the leader of the concert orchestra is bullying the kid who wants to be a great drummer. It's a pretty harrowing movie. It's pretty awful. It has actually nothing to do with jazz because that's not how jazz musicians develop. Artists, you can't use negative psychology with artists. Yeah, I mean, maybe with sports people, they'll just bring out a bit extra, but not with an artist. But no, I hate negative coaching. Lyali says, do you think trash talking has gotten worse over the years, as in caused more violence? I don't know. It's very hard to say that. I would think maybe it's the same in a sense. It's just maybe we hear it more often because the level of civil debate has tended to broaden, and so we're exposed to a lot of extreme kinds of verbal behavior. I think they've always been there. It's just that they've not been as broadcast to the general public as much in the past. It was kind of kept quiet. But with the media kind of listening to everything and looking into everything, then and plus social media, I think what you do is you're exposed to a degree of trash talking that has always existed. Carl says, does anyone agree with me that trash talk can be positive in some ways? Yeah, that's what we were just talking about in a sense. If it does spur people on, notice the different types of trash talk. You can use it with members of your own team, not just members of the opposing team. So, in that sense, it could create a certain kind of solidarity, a certain bonds and things. So, I guess in that sense, it can be positive. Although I hate the idea of trash talk, really. Um, Terrell says something I found interesting in the notes are the unwritten rules of trash talk. What stood out was that the notes indicated these rules were for basketball, but these are all the same rules I found to be true through my real life endeavors. Yeah, interesting. I mean, the idea of those rules of trash talk about are based upon the rules of conversation. So in a sense, it doesn't matter what the sport is. Those rules of trash talk are going to be true for baseball, cricket, soccer, whatever. Um, Quite frankly, it's so ingrained that I know it. I know it to be the right way to act on trash talk. I wonder how society goes about this in more historically cultured places like Britain. Well, I don't know quite what you mean by historically culture in the sense that maybe there's a longer history, especially written history, and that is a written history of white people in Britain as opposed to the oral history of Native Americans in this country. I don't think Britain can claim to have any greater culture in the sense of being more restrained in terms of their trash talk. It's always existed. Again, it's probably not been something that people have noticed, but it does go on, has gone on a lot. And I wouldn't want to think about too much about how much trash talk was used in the building of the empire. Probably a lot. Um, it's one thing that's interesting about trash talk is that it does tend to vary from sport to sport based upon physical contact. So I would think that in games which are pretty fast moving, there's probably um, less chance of trash talk. So if you think of, say, football, basketball, where you've got a lot of proximity between the players, then you do get a lot of trash talk. And the other one I'm thinking about, going back to Britain, is rugby. Lots and lots of trash talk in rugby, historically, going back long time to the beginning of the game. You get into those what they call scrums in rugby. There's a lot of trash talk going on, and that's why they end up fighting a lot. So having that close contact, so I think there's probably less chance for trash talk in soccer because you tend not to be all that close and you're moving around a lot. Boxing, of course, lots of in the clinches, lots of chances for trash talk. So, bottom line, I don't think older historical countries, nations have anything else, any better response to trash talk than this country. Have a look at the video of sledging. That's trash talk in cricket. Um, it's the trash talk is then going on from going is performed mainly by the wicket keeper. That's the same as the catcher in baseball. So and it's very tongue in cheek. It's very sarcastic. It's not offensive, but it's this continual trying to undermine the psychological well being of the batter. Very interesting. So it varies from sport to sport rather than from culture to culture, I think. Alex K says Alex K has a comment about this is the paper by I think it's Eastwood about the NBC coverage of the 2000 Olympics. And so he points out, he says, may have been biased towards gender, race, and nationality. I'm not saying there was not, but I know that when a company like NBC covers the Olympics, it's only going to show the events that most Americans will want to see. True. Therefore, they will not show a sport like table tennis because one, there are not going to be any good Americans in it, and two, it won't be get good ratings compared to showing an event like ice skating. I do not think that they should be blamed for being biased for doing something like this because I think that is just uh, common throughout the world. Yeah, the paper, that was not really the main questions that they were looking at. They were talking about clock time given to different sports and that. That's true. But the main thrust of that paper, and they've written lots of other papers, is about the very unconscious way commentators tend to repeat stereotypes about racial stereotypes or gender stereotypes without actually being conscious of it. And so I think that work that has been done on that has been very beneficial to corporations, to broadcasting corporations, because they have begun to understand the kinds of way they transmit these these pre-existing stereotypes. So yeah, I like that work because I think it's very it does draw attention to the kinds of things that we say, and we don't recognize there's a whole ideology beneath those stereotypes. And then Alex K had a question. Do you think trash talking could be used as a way for motivation? Yeah, and we've kind of talked about that earlier in terms of that. I think it can be, and it has been shown to be reasonably effective. Um, if you know, if given certain personalities and etc. In certain situations, we talked about trash talk between members as well as against opposing teams. Cameron says Muhammad Ali, who passed away yesterday, was one of the greatest trash talkers of all time. Yeah, amazing. I wonder how his own self-talk, trash talk, motivated him to be the best he could be. Do you think he would have been as great if trash talking was banned in boxing? Well, certainly he would have been great. Most of it, he was phenomenally gifted as an athlete. He was phenomenally gifted as a self promoter too, and through his verbal skills as well. But Yes, he would have been the greatest. Whether if he had not been allowed to trash talk in the ring, and it's impossible, really, to control trash talking. Most sports referees turn a blind eye to it, don't they? It's like lots of kinds of things. And too, with language, it's very difficult to control. Jordan says trash talking is a very interesting topic these days, especially with the advancement in media. You will often hear trash talk on TV that is meant to be funny. Also, there is trash talking done on social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and many more. Right. I believe trash talk can be detrimental to our society, and we need to watch what we say and how we say things, especially since the word can travel fast and across the world in seconds. That is true. If you think of traditional trash talking, if you think of the beginnings of it and playing the dozens, those kind of African American games where you pile on the yo mama jokes. I mean, that's something that's done in a very restricted environment. And of course, the loser is the one who resorts to violence. So, in a sense, it's really an attempt to use verbal skills and to also to be able to control your particular reaction. So if you can use both of those, you can succeed very well in life. But those kinds of games were done in neighborhoods. I mean, if you start doing them on social media, I think you're quite correct. It's highly detrimental. And the other course problem is, the amount of trolling that goes on, which in a sense is another term for trash talking. So if you're reading an article or something on social media, on the internet, and then you have a comments part. I mean, that can be fantastic, but it can also be ruined by the people who just use it for trash talking. Um, Eli says, "What is your favorite trash talking quote of all time?" I don't know, but I think Alex Chu made a response to that one. And this is Alex talking. I think that the greatest trash talking quote of all times comes from the movie The Sandlot, where two groups of kids are arguing about who plays baseball better by insulting the other group of kids with silly insults like fart sniffer and scab eater. However, one kid takes it too far, quote unquote, and says, "You play like a girl," to which all the other kids are stunned like he said a swear word. Yeah, very interesting. I mean, and that is what's still true today, unfortunately. The way that that kind of sexism is used to put down used by men to put down other men. Even the word bitch is used by a man to put down another man. All right. So yeah. Um, that's the currency. Insult somebody by comparing them to a woman. Oh, yeah, that's where we're at. Okay, next question, Peter. We're moving away from trash talk now. There's something about commentary. How did commentary start? Since there was probably commentary of some sort before broadcasting or audio amplification systems, why did people want commentators if they could see the action themselves? Well, I don't know. This is interesting, and if there's any kind of sports journalists out there who know the answer to this, I'd be interested to hear about this. So, um, Peter's kind of talking about pre-electronic, pre-megaphone uh, types of commentary at sporting events. I couldn't actually think of one. The one I did think of one was horse racing. In horse racing, for the most part, you can't see the horses. You can't see the whole of the track. But somebody with a pair of binoculars could see the whole of the track. So I don't know if in horse racing there was a commentary that was delivered by somebody who was able to see the race through binoculars and then relay that to the crowd so that they could be kept up with what's going on in the race. Um, there's always been, well, not always, but sports journalism goes back probably much longer than commentary. And in a sense, that may have developed from that, in the sense that if you're reporting on a sporting event, you might want to convey what's going on in real time. So, in that sense, that's a very kind of a asynchronous commentary. So, way back in the day, I mean, sports journalists would send messages back to their copy editors, to their desks, on through carrier pigeon, for example. Reporting that certain team had scored a goal. So in a sense, that's a type of commentary, but um, I think we have to sort of talk about commentaries beginning with the radio. Um, the first sports commentaries are credited to 1923, I think, a commentary on a boxing match. So boxing, baseball from the 1920s onwards become racing, become something which the radio does very well, and that's where sports commentary starts, I think, for me. And then it's transferred um, to TV. It's a different type of commentary. Um, and yeah, we can watch now on TV, and I think most people still prefer a commentary to identify a particular player. Unfortunately, we tend to get too much commentary, don't we? Okay, next question is Alex Chu. Do you have a favorite commentary moment from your favorite sportscaster? I don't know. I came up with a couple. Um, One is basically because it's very good commentary, and this is a commentator called Brian Butler. He's describing the fantastic goal that Maradona scored against England in the 1986 World Cup, and there's a link to it. And what's amazing about that is the way that he's able to, in real time, say something really very poetic in a sense about the way that Maradona scores that goal. I don't know how he came up with it. His words seem to match everything that Maradona does, right? Most times, in retrospect, once you know what's going to happen, you can come up with some pretty articulate commentary, but in real time, that's very difficult. And then, of course, the other one is not really a commentary, it's just my favourite sporting moment. My team, Manchester City, when 2012 Sergio Aguero scored the winning goal in the 93rd and 20 seconds of the game. They were deep into overtime. And that particular clip there is interesting because it's juxtaposed with Man United having just won their game against Sunderland. They know that City are 2-1 down at that time, and they're thinking they've won the championship. And then, in the space of 3 minutes, City scored two goals. So, okay. One more? Yeah. Nick, what is your favorite way to follow sports events? Well, this made me think of quite a few things actually, and it depends. It depends on this particular sporting event, and it depends on how involved I am with it. So let me tell you that my team, Manchester City, I'm so involved with them, and a lot of you have described your kind of die-hard fandom, and I think you probably agree. It's often because it's very difficult to watch your own team, right? Because it's too emotional. So I find it difficult to watch Man City, and so I don't really watch a lot of their games live. I like watching other games where I don't have the emotional commitment, and that's fantastic to do that. Of course, the best, of course, way of following your team is to go to the stadium and watch it there. That's much better. That's the best. So TV's the next best, unless you're really emotionally involved. So what I do, I mean, radio commentary would be just as involving, and so what I tend to do is follow text commentary, um, or just monitor the score as it happens. One of the problems is that if you're watching it on TV, you can't do much else. Um, Radio's a bit better, but I tend to follow, the text commentary, because then I can be doing other things, and every so often I can go and see what's happening. So yeah, um, depending on how involved you are, I think there's quite a lot of options these days of following sports events. Okay, so thanks for those questions.